Hey guys, before we jump into today's episode, Luis and I had a really fun and intriguing conversation. Unfortunately, the platform that I do record on was having a few technical difficulties the day we recorded. I did have to cut out about 6 to 8 minutes of the beginning portion. It was just really choppy audio, and you really couldn't understand some of the aspects he was talking about from kind of his background. So I didn't want to leave in kind of the really bad audio section of it. There are still a few minor choppy parts, so please, bear with us during this episode. It was a really fun conversation to kind of get Luis's perspective. He had a lot of experience, over 2 years of experience on the broker side of things, and then transitioned recently over into the asset-based side, more on the Drayage end here at Port Houston. I met him at the Texas Trucking Show, kind of dive in right there from kind of his from when he started as a broker and kind of what kind of freight he was moving, and in the rest of the episode, the audio is pretty decent. So thank you guys for listening, and we'll dive into the episode now. I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Sales-CRM. If you haven't heard about Sales-CRM, they've been a sponsor of ours for about 4.5 months now, and they are honestly the premier CRM for freight brokers and sales agent teams. It's pretty unique to have a specific product for freight brokers that can house all of your follow-ups, all your shipper prospecting. I know when I was a broker, I did have a hard time, following up and being able to kind of manage my leads through the kind of some of those traditional CRM platforms. So when I heard about Sales-CRM, Josh showed it to me probably over a year ago, and I've been a big advocate for what they're doing since then, and that's why they're a sponsor of ours, and I just want to thank them again for being a sponsor. If you guys haven't checked them out, make sure you guys do. Links in the description, but you can also check them out, sales-crm.com. You can try it free for 14 days. Go there, check it out. No credit card needed. Welcome back to the ThinkFreight Podcast. Thanks for joining us today. I'm your host, Tommy Wardine. I'm excited for today's guest. I've got a friend of mine, Luis Ramirez. He's the account manager of trucking and distribution at Greenmile Logistics. Luis, welcome to the pod, man. Thrilled to have you here.
Hey, Tommy. What's going on, man? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I want to ask you kind of about your time at Trailer Bridge, because I think that this is kind of where kind of the rubber meets the road with kind of where you really dove into like the brokering side and kind of how you got into with Greenmile now. So, you said you touched a little bit of everything when you were at Trailer Bridge. What was, I guess, your favorite kind of freight to move, or what, maybe what gave you kind of that excitement when you were a broker?
I think I think dry van freight was my forte. And I think I had an advantage because of my, my Spanish is pretty, I'm fluent. So it was very easy for me to build relationships with that nobody on the side of their freight. From there.
Yep.
I did both of those on California, a lot of Texas freight. Laredo was one of my hot spots, and I think I base down again. Speaking Spanish, it was easy for me to touch base with those guys at the border that they're still their English, and it was just easy for me to build that relationship with those carriers at the because I can Spanish. So yeah, I think
dude, I'll say I'll touch on that I'll touch on that real fast, man, because I know when I was a broker, when I was at TQL, when I was starting FSL, I moved a lot of cross-border as well. I was big into produce, not so much the dry van side, but I genuinely had, my Spanish is very limited. So if I didn't get an English-speaking driver, an English-speaking dispatcher, or someone on their team that could speak English, I was pretty much SOL with that carrier or that driver because unfortunately, unless I had someone who spoke Spanish on my team, I just couldn't. There was the language barrier. Even though we both wanted to use each other, we just we couldn't. So I think that's a big driver for when building some of these relationships, especially if you're looking at moving cross-border freight. Knowing Spanish, it gives you a giant leg up with not just on the shipper side, but also on the carrier side. And being here in the U.S., it gives you that advantage to having all the tech and all the advantages of being here, but also saying, hey, I can I'm a Spanish speaker. I'm not gonna things aren't gonna go wrong because you don't have someone who knows the language. There's not gonna be a language barrier anywhere in between. If they get to the receiver, I can handle both the Spanish and the English side, translation, anything that happens. So it makes that conversation with a shipper a lot easier for you, or even with a carrier a lot easier for you. Would you say that?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you there. I mean, even the negotiation part, if the other party is not that well versed in in English and negotiating, then they're just gonna give me a number, and if I don't give them what they want, they're just gonna be like, "Nah, man, no, it's too low." Like, Yeah. Whereas if I was, speaking to them in Spanish, I would be like, "Hey, man, look, I got this many loads. If you can meet me here, we can make it happen." And so, it's just easier. It's a relatable thing. It's like, if you have something that you can relate to somebody else, then they're gonna, like to hang out with you or talk to you or do business with you. Yeah. So my thing was always, do what I can to build my relationship with these carriers, at the border, and make sure my customers are taken care of on the other side. And a lot of the times, like, one thing that maybe some people don't notice, but Mexico logistics is not the same as USA logistics. Let me just say that. I mean, over there, these guys are working.
Yeah, it's a different animal.
It's completely different, man. And there's more things that you need to worry about on that side. I mean, with everything going on, I mean, your freight is basically, if you're exporting to Mexico, your freight is moving, at your own risk. It depends what areas of Mexico you go to, but you can't just, you can't just give your freight that's going down to Mexico to anybody. You got to know who you're giving your freight to. And that was, that was one of the things that I really focused on is just trying to make sure that both sides of, the shipper and the carrier were both really, really close with me. And I would say that sometimes customers in other countries, they don't exactly know how things go around in the U.S., right? So they don't know about 3-hour traffic delays in Houston, They don't know about, 2 hours to get from Dallas to Fort Worth, so.
Right.
They're just, they know the game. You and that's just how it goes. But ultimately, for me, it was always keeping the customer happy.
Yeah.
We get the bond.
On the Mexico side, you said something that was intriguing to me that I kind of want to dive into just slightly more. I know this isn't a cross-border podcast originally, but I think this is interesting because this is a very hot topic right now. People are rushing to go after more of the Mexican side freight and to get some more of the straight through runs and stuff that gets cross docked. And you said you have to know who to give your freight to because the Mexican side is a completely different world than what we're dealing with on the U.S. side. So how do you know who to give your freight to? How do you know, or how do you start to build some of those relationships on the Mexico side if you are here in the U.S.?
I think it really just boils down to a rapport thing. Whenever I was working, I had agents in Mexico that I worked directly with. And I would say, well, who's who's certified and who's kind of somebody you've never heard of. If it's somebody you've never heard of, I would probably hold off on that. Yeah. I've been in this for 20 years, or somebody that's those guys are. You always want to have somebody in Mexico that knows the industry in Mexico, helping you move freight down there.
Yeah.
Because also it's different than up here. There's Texas State Troopers here, right? That might pull you over. Right. Over there, you might get pulled over by somebody that's not even a cop. So, name of the game, I guess.
You'll get pulled over by cartel. Yeah, it's a big cartel zone everywhere down there, and you could get pulled over by police. It could be the cartel. It could be it could be in any number of people or agencies. Just like you said, like it's a lot different than here. Like I don't think there's even like a system like the FMCSA who tracks whether carriers are registered or whether they have insurance or whether they're bonded or whether they have all these things. So, they're on that front, they're way behind. But I think with how U.S. and Mexico trade is evolving since the COVID pandemic, I think that we're going to see some of those infrastructure, kind of be put into place there in Mexico. Some of these internet and resources for some of the trucking side, as well as the overall import and export side as well.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think something we were talking about at the truck show was, I was telling, our friend Justin about it. But some of the pricing gets kind of tweaked a little bit because of B1 drivers. In my experience, I had a lot of carriers that were, Mexican carriers that had, the license, the B1 license to haul freight on the U.S. side. So them being, not knowing the prices of loads up here, they're calling customers left and right, and they're getting the freight. And I know this specifically because, there's companies that have been introduced, family friends like that, to down to, and whenever I, got in front of them and started listening to some of their targets and what they're paying for right now, I was just like, man, I don't even think I want to touch that. Because I definitely lose, and it just doesn't work. As a broker, it doesn't make sense. You're getting all of Washington down to Mexico, you're paying them and then U.S. carriers are asking for 5-6. I don't know exactly what the rate is right now, but that's just there's $1,000, $2,000 difference sometimes.
Yeah.
And if you can lock in, entities in the U.S. with Mexican drivers, they usually be your typical like the truck.
No, that's spot on. And a couple of months ago in the newsletter, we covered a couple of specific instances where company owners in Laredo were dealing with the same issue. They were saying, "Hey, we're being really undercut from our shippers here in the U.S. from Mexican B1 drivers who are underbidding us $500, $600, $800 to go from New York back to Mexico or wherever it may be." And I have an experience. I can't 100% confirm this, but I had a shipper when I was at a big box, and they moved a lot of apples and a lot of stuff from Washington down to the border. And their rates were just, I mean, they were so dirt cheap. If, and I'm saying genuinely, if I could find a carrier, I would make $100.
Yeah.
Like they were moving them, and they were moving 30. They claimed they were moving 30 loads of apples a day at these $1.20 a mile, less than $1.20 a mile. And I was like, as a broker, I can't touch this. I need, a few $100 more because I can't even find carriers. U.S. carriers are telling me, hey man, they're telling me target 17, and U.S. carriers are telling me 25, 28, 3,000, and I can't touch it. So that experience is very real, and it's been happening for a long time. It's just kind of how the industry can evolve and kind of shape and trying to change how that's happening. I want to switch gears a little bit because I want to ask you. You've been in the industry kind of for a while now. What do you like about the industry? What keeps you passionate about freight logistics? What drives you every day?
I would say I think the ever evolving going. For me, I mean, I was out for it came out. I live in the station now. I live in Houston. It's just like, for me, it's always been about change, consistent change, and logistics changes every second, every minute. I mean, and that's just what I love about it, and it keeps me going because one year might be really good, one year it might just be really bad, and I'm prepared for it, and I'm here for it. So I think the fact that there's always something new changing, and the technologies coming in, and AI coming in, and all these new things that are coming in that the industry never really saw before, and it's just exciting to see where it goes from here, honestly.
I completely agree, man, and I want to dive into kind of what you're doing now with Greenmile, because I think you guys are a pretty cool company. I had the opportunity to meet your COO, Ben. You guys are really cool, really cool organization, and are doing some really cool things. So what are you doing with let me ask you this first. What is Greenmile Logistics, and what are you doing there as an account manager of trucking and distribution?
Yeah. So Greenmile Logistics is a drayage asset carrier, drayage, transloading and warehousing. Our facility is actually right across from Barber's Cut Terminal, literally 50 yards from the exit. So the first address, as soon as you exit Barber's Cut, is our address. So we specialize in drayage movements in Texas and the Gulf Coast, anything Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Missouri. I actually just had a couple loads go up to Denver. So we can handle all 48, but
nice.
We, as you know, some drivers, they want to come back home. So some people don't like being on the road for 6 to 7 days. So we try to focus in one area and be very subject matter experts in those areas. Like part of us is to elevate them here first men here at Greenmile.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's as a drayage, so you're looking for not importing and what they're importing and who's exporting and what they're exporting. And so it was a little bit of a change for me because previously as a broker, I wasn't part of the drayage team per se. But now that I'm at Greenmile, I'm transitioning more to power only drayage. These they're just, take your container to your customer, bring back the container. And so I think one of the things that I'm mainly focused on right now is the business for us before market turn.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to, build with good brokers. I'm trying to build relationships with the rest of deals. I'm doing, as a broker, I was just reaching out to, like there's our brokers too. So that was a little bit of a change as well, going from broker to career. Game with I play, you know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely.
And when you've never done brokerage, you don't know how these how these brokers are kind of doing things, and some of the tricks and how to get your rate down a little bit. Usually, side it's just like, yeah, I'll get paid, and that's it. But it's really more than that, and especially if you want to grow your company, you got to build those relationships and be out there being your team to those customers that you have on your board. I think for me, speed kills. So the faster I can be on 22 on ThinkFreight, the faster I can be negotiating a number, the better service my customer will receive. Because it's always a time crunch, how long does it take your driver to get it up? The less time it takes you to do, the better you'll.
Now, being more on the asset-based side now, how many assets do you guys have, and how has I guess selling some of the like warehousing or utilizing some of the warehousing as a tool in your tool belt, how has that changed, for when you're talking to some of your broker clients, your direct BCOs, your freight forwarders, whoever it may be? How does that kind of impact how you can sell now?
Well, I have free range, because when when you're selling for bigger brokerage, there's other reps that are competing for the same customers, right? And now I'm more or less in competition with myself, which I really like, because I'm not trying to take leads from people. I'm not trying to do any of these things that happen at big brokerage firms. And I'm I'm focusing on that run through the port here every year, and it's just being able to offer those services and making sure that your customer knows that you'll take good care of them, and especially if they see your dedication, and on
Yeah.
Old school touches, just today I was maybe we can grab lunch next month, just checking in, and
absolutely,
focusing on those things. But back to, I know I kind of got off topic, but back to the asset side of things. We have 30 asset trucks. So we run, I guess, not the biggest operation, but not the smallest either. And we focus on really what's known as the Texas Triangle. I 45 and 35. So Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, and Houston. And those are kind of, those are big markets. Even just in Texas, here, shout out to everybody in Houston that's out there competing for the freight. it's just a huge market. So there's opportunities everywhere.
Yeah, definitely, man. And this being in Houston and having a lot of people don't think about Texas this way, but from Houston, you've got three other major metros within a 3.5 hour distance. You've got, like you said, San Antonio, Austin, and Dallas, and obviously Houston. So you've got major metros where you can find really good customers. You can find a lot of freight to move. So I think that people underestimate how much freight kind of moves through Houston. We always talk about California being the big one, and a few on the East Coast, but the West Coast has kind of always been the powerhouse. But Houston is really up there in terms of kind of how the shift has been over the last few years to push more freight through some of these other ports. Houston has really taken a massive leap and is a massive force here.
And I would say Laredo is coming up right behind it. I know earlier,
Yeah.
but I honestly think that with a lot of companies outsourcing their labor, and a lot of cross-border freight coming up, going down, and maybe less coming through, maritime. Um, that's just what I think and what I see happening. And I'm not. I haven't been in the industry for 30 years. I'm very analytical, and I can see trends. That the trade port is going to grow a lot, especially with the bigger metroplexes. Not Monterey. I mean, Monterey is one of the biggest industry cities in about. I think it's about 3 to 4 hours from Laredo. So
Yeah.
It's but I definitely myself, I live I-10. I see thousands of trailers coming in, and
oh yeah,
and it's just incredible. It's an awesome industry. I'm proud to be a part of it.
I want to dive into a little bit of AI in the industry because it's such a very interesting topic right now, right? I mean, from just the overall, everyone's talking about in every industry, but we've really started to utilize AI in the logistics industry with this, which is kind of interesting because you've been in the industry a couple of years, and 2 or 3 years ago, Luis, it still felt like a very old industry. Yep. Like we're still doing things in a very old time, in a very old fashion. And now all of a sudden, 2.5 years later, everyone's gung ho on AI. We have to implement AI into everything. I want to read a couple headlines because I think that they're really important for the overall AI topic and what we're going to dive into. This is a FreightWaves article that went live on January 1st. We covered it in the ThinkFreight newsletter as well. It says C.H. Robinson slashes over 50% of U.S. sales team sources say. C.H. Robinson laid off about 80 of its remaining 150 enterprise sales team here in the U.S. Also from Transport Topics, this is from January 22nd, so just a couple weeks ago. C.H. Robinson launches AI-leveraged load matching platform called Digital Dispatch, which uses an algorithm that provides timely and precise load recommendations. So my question to you is, with these platforms and all this AI that's being rolled out, are you worried about, people being replaced by AI in this industry?
This is something, and those that were there for part of the team at the time will know. But I actually mentioned this to one of my managers previously, and I was like, "Hey, man, AI's coming to get us." And And I was just joking at the time, but lo and behold, this thing is really happening now. And I don't think necessarily, not yet, not anytime in the near future. But I don't think you can really replace that personal touch. Not yet, at least not until we have like robots that look like people and can actually meet you in person. But as far as quoting and as far as spot quoting, like, yeah, dude, give it to AI. Why work? Why spend 5-10 minutes trying to quote a bid when the AI can kick out the numbers in 3 seconds?
Right.
So I personally think that AI has a big and I actually saw this when I was at UPS. When I first started at UPS, they had a old school TMS, like green and black screen with like, just old school. And because it was all digital dispatching, and it was on, you had to go onto a website, and it was just, drag here and drag here and do this. And when I generated a move as an art control, it would start giving out moves to my drivers in advance, and I would just have to kind of go behind it and just clean up. Like, let's say I know, there was a trailer that was ready to pull to the bottom, have the and before AI even hit brokerage, I think before I was in brokerage, I saw this happening, and people was in the base and this and that. And then when I got into freight brokerage, I didn't get scared. I'm not intimidated by AI. Matter of fact, I love AI. But I think,
me too.
It's these computers are doing things faster than us, and so that's why before is kills. So the faster you can be, the quicker you can be, the less chance I replace. And it's type an email to a prospect. I mean, it's not efficient. But if I can, if I can generate helps in the end. Less time doing things, more time moving more loads. That's how I see it.
Yeah, we kind of started this episode with talking about relationships and cross-border and how important those are, and then we're kind of ending it on AI and potentially replacing people. I tend to agree with you, Luis. I don't think that the freight broker in whole can be replaced. I think certain aspects can be replaced to make freight brokers more efficient. I don't think that the freight brokers themselves or sales teams and freight brokers are fully going to be replaced by AI. But what I do think will happen is brokers and sales teams who are not very well versed in AI, they will be replaced by people who are well versed in AI. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, going to be the formula going forward is giving these AI models kind of, hey, you're not gonna quote anymore unless it's certain things you may end up sending it, but hey, this is going to go into an immediate like generation process. You're going to overall look at it 30 seconds and hit send to make sure that things aren't haywire. But overall, this is going to be a process there's overall a lot more streamlined, and things people have kind of been, I guess, screaming for years has just kind of been sped up into hyperdrive. We didn't really have some of those intermediate growth stages of tech. We just kind of went from in the trucking logistics world, and this is more so with kind of some of the mom and pop trucking and bigger assets, not like UPS. But and same on the brokerage side, we're all starting to see, hey, this AI is so much better than a lot of the tools we previously had. Let's just go right to implementing this, which may always not be the greatest way of going about it, but obviously it's the way of the future and kind of the way things are kind of looking in 2024.
And I'm not only just seeing AI being an asset, but it's also important for analytical things. As a sales rep, you're analyzing who's importing, who's shipping, who the co-signee is, who controls the freight. It's not just about hey, it's a load of Gatorades. Gatorade. Most of the time,
right.
And especially and then with the freight forwarder and stuff. So I think AI will be good, and I'm already seeing it in some platforms that I use currently, where it can filter out who it can tell you can put tell me all the loads that are coming in from Vietnam, and it'll prompt you all the shipments that are recorded through the port. Who the co-signee is, who the logistics partner is, who the VOCC is, who the MVOCC is. It's amazing that I can just quickly find that.
Right.
And now who the right person is in a matter of seconds. And you had that contact. Now people might not answer, but at least you know that that's the right person. And it's it's a game, and you got to adapt to the rules. The rules change over time. But it's just fun to see just going from now double trucking. And if you're not up to date, if you're not moving like new school, then you're gonna get left behind. That's how I see it.
Luis, if you could tell the brokers out there one thing, now that you're sitting on the other side, you've been in their seat, you've been them, what would you do, or what would you tell the brokers out there listening? What's one thing you would tell them? Like what is something that you've now taken from being on the asset side that you're like, damn, I wish I could go back and maybe do this differently, or maybe I could have been more helpful by doing this to my carrier partners. What have you maybe learned to tell the brokers out there how they can be more helpful, or just anything at all that you've learned?
Yeah. I would say a lot of carriers are getting stuck somewhere where they can't get a reload. And so I would say to get close to your for them. Let's say, I take, New Hampshire and come to Texas. So if you can build multiple pickups along the way for your drivers and, plan out a whole week for them, instead of spot quoting everything and take like that can run 20 anywhere, build your routes, and give them multiple routes based off. Obviously as a broker, you're focused on margins, but at the same time, sometimes I would say breaking even is better than going with a carrier you've never used. I would say. As an ex-broker, I know there was times where I definitely got, I lost a lot of money on some loads. made a lot of money on other loads. But at the end of the day, I was reaching out to, like, I got the Wednesday for Thursday, this one for Friday. Let me know your capacity for the week. And they'll be like, yeah, I'll take those 4.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, cool. Information. Thursday when I need the driver. And so,
right.
Yeah, that's my recommendation there is try to get your carriers on routes, not just one pick, one drop, but have them move around a little bit.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Luis. There was definitely times when I would have rather, or I did, take a loss on a load or broke even on a load to use a carrier that I knew was trustworthy or I'd used in the past over giving it to someone that I'd never used before, a brand new spot carrier to, make $100 or make, to break even, whatever it was. I mean, there's plenty of times when I lost $500, $800, $1,000 on a load. It didn't feel good taking it out of, basically my own pocket, but you have to do what you have to do. And overall, it was the right thing to do for the customer. Because at the end of the day, it's not my freight, right? It's the customer's freight. It's someone else's freight. I'm just kind of being the middleman and helping out. So at the end of the day, I've got to be conscious of, hey, this is, I have to make the best decision, not for me and for my bottom line, but also for the customer and carriers. And there's a lot of snowball effects that can go into hiring a bad carrier for a load.
Yeah, for sure. There's really these different and people make, fake carriers, all stuff going on right now, and you just want to take precautions and, make sure you lock in with the people that can get the job done well. If it more, some weeks and some weeks you might make a little bit more, just, I guess, trust the hand that feeds you, right?
No, absolutely. That's spot on, man. Hey, Luis, I know we're over on time already, but I want to have you back on the show soon because I think there's a lot more that we can talk about. I've got a lot more that I want to dive into with you in the future, but I appreciate you coming on tonight. If our audience wants to get in touch with you or they want to learn more or find you online, or they have some questions about drayage or have some moves for you, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, everyone's feel free to add me on LinkedIn. If you just look up Luis Ramirez, Greenmile Logistics, I should be the one that pops up in a red tie. And if not, you can reach me via email at ris.rir@greenmilelogistics.com. And right, a bit of a discount if there's people having containers arrive or departing from Houston. Feel free to reach out to me. We can make it happen.
Absolutely. Make sure you guys check out Luis at Greenmile Logistics. We'll have his links in the comments. If you guys like today's podcast, make sure you give it a like and review. It does help us out a ton. And don't forget, we do drop 3 weekly newsletters, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at ThinkFreight.io. And we'll catch you guys in the next episode. Don't forget to think freight.